Hi everyone, and welcome back to the MS Workouts channel. In last week's video, we posted a steady pace strength training session to help you improve your hip flexor strength so you can clear your legs when you walk. We asked you to execute this session, or that session rather, 1 to 3 times per week this month because that is how you're going to get results with a high intensity and specificity. Now in this week's video, I'm going to give you an activity to do on the days that you're not performing that steady pace, high intensity strength training session. Now, before we move forward, I'd like to make a very special announcement. We have just opened up registration for our Hip Flexor Immersive Workshop for the class of July 2023. This is a 6-day event powered by MS Workouts to help you get your hip flexors stronger so you can clear your legs when you walk. From July 6th to July 11th, all registered participants will receive daily emails from our team with activities they need to complete by the end of the day. What that means is it doesn't matter where you're located in the world. Once you receive your email, just execute those activities by the end of the day and you will see amazing improvements in your hip flexors. We will also be supporting you along the way through live Q&As and answering your questions via email and/or our private Facebook group that we're going to create just for this event. To register for this Hip Flexor Immersive Workshop, just go to www.msworkouts.com or click the link below this video and sign up simply using your name and email. Just go to www.msworkouts.com and register. It is free, okay? This free Hip Flexor Immersive Workshop is going to get you the results that you want, so don't wait. There is nothing that our team and I hate worse than having to leave someone behind because you simply didn't register before the time period. It has happened, and unfortunately, it's probably gonna happen this time as well, so don't let that be you, okay? With all that being said, all right, let's go ahead and shift gears into this week's video where I'm going to show you how to get those legs to lift higher than ever before and what to do on those days between your strength training days. Let's get started. Welcome back, everybody. We're gonna keep our focus for the month on hip flexors rolling. Last week, we focused on a strength training session. This week, I'm gonna give you some restorative movements to help in the recovery process. Don't forget, you should be executing those strength training exercises 1 to 3 times a week with a good 24 to 40 hours between. The 1 to 3 times comes down to how well you're engaging. When the intensity is higher, the volume needs to be pulled back 1 to 2 times. When the intensity is lower and/or you're recovering really well, you can bump it up sometimes to 3 times a week. Now, what should you be doing between those strength training days? Well, that's what we're doing today. In this restorative movement, I'm gonna show you a movement and also a stretch that's gonna add some specificity to your daily routine to really supercharge your recovery. Let's do it. Okay, as I mentioned, we're gonna start with a movement, okay? And again, this is a movement. This means that the intensity is much lower than the exercise, and you're just simply trying to move through the range of motion. I'm gonna give you a couple variations to execute. That way, no matter what your current function is, you're going to be able to utilize this restorative movement in your active rest. Now notice I'm already sitting on the ground today. If you cannot get down onto the ground, that's not an issue. Take a seat on the bed, take a seat on an ottoman, a couch, do what works for you. Just know that you're gonna be able to need to lay down on the surface. Ready to do it? Let's go ahead and rock. Now notice I have my clock here today for me here on the floor. We also as a team are gonna throw a clock up for you to make it easier for you. What we're gonna do here is we're gonna activate our hip flexors in this restorative movement, and it's simply movement, okay? You're not trying to reach muscle failure like we do in our exercise. We're just moving through a range. So during this 60 seconds, which we're gonna execute, I'm gonna hit a couple variations to show you how to adapt it to your needs. All right, so what we're doing is we're gonna start with a bend to the knees, and we are going to, when we begin, execute by bringing knee up towards chest, pausing, heading back down. So slow, deliberate march, actively engaging hip flexor. It's the hip flexor that allows you to lift this femur through the range of motion, okay? You can also increase the difficulty, right, if you need to, or function, by extending leg all the way out to increase the range of motion at a greater level. Lastly, you can always use a band, okay, to help assist you in the process of bringing those legs up if your function isn't quite strong enough to allow you to move through the range. All right, let's go ahead and rock it. Clock is on. Now, in today's movement, I'm not gonna really focus on my tempo and focus on trying to really fatigue this muscle. I'm simply moving through the range of motion, okay? I'm going one leg at a time. And notice I'm not too concerned with the amount of efforts and or reps that I'm executing. I'm simply moving through the range, okay? Now, you do still want to execute this slow and deliberate because you want to keep the forces out and you want to keep it safe on these hip flexors. Now I'm just going to change the variation here. This is another way you could be executing it right now. Literally just moving the knee in and out towards that torso. And depending on the current function of your hip flexor, this may be extremely difficult. It may be extremely easy, okay? And the most important thing is that we're actively engaging this hip flexor and getting blood flow back to the tissue. This is adding specificity to your active rest. We're crossing that 60-second mark, so we're gonna slowly disengage. All we're looking for is to gain some oxygenated blood flow and some shortening and lengthening back to that tissue. Do not execute this restorative movement longer than about 90 seconds or so without taking a 30 to 45 second break between. After you take that break, feel free to jump back in and execute 1 or 2 more efforts or sets, but do not do this for too terribly long. We're not trying to wear out your muscle. All right, we're gonna head to our next restorative movement, which is a stretch. Now that we have gotten some blood flow to the tissue, we're gonna focus on lengthening back out those hip flexors in a stretch. Let's go ahead and do it. Okay, notice I have a resistance band here. You can use a towel, you could use a t-shirt, you could use whatever you have, yoga strap, okay? What we're looking to execute here in this stretch is we want extension of the hip. So what we're gonna do is focus on taking the knee or the femur straight back, okay? So an easy thing to do in this process, if your knee joint is okay, you can always throw the strap around the lower part of your tib fib, have a little bit of flexion of the knee. That's not important how much because we're not focused on the quadricep. And you're gonna focus on bringing legs straight back, okay? The more extension you get in the hip, the greater stretch you're gonna feel on that hip flexor. Now notice we're executing this stretch in a static nature, which means we're going back to a good stretch and we're letting it sit in that position. We're doing this static stretch after that restorative movement, meaning you do not want to static stretch a quote cold muscle, right? It's always better to get some blood flow to the area to reduce the risk of any injury or discomfort or irritation into that hip flexor. Now, the suggestion is to hang out for a good 20 to 30 seconds into that static stretch and come back to the neutral position. If you're feeling discomfort in the knee, you can always straighten leg and just take leg straight back. Should not feel discomfort in low back. Keep pelvis in a neutral state. After you've stretched one side, simply flip to the other side and focus on, again, taking that femur straight back, okay, to get extension into that hip. So you're coming straight back with that knee. Use a band if you need to, okay? That extends the femur back, lengthens the anterior side. Get a good 30 to 45 second stretch, ease out, head back in. You could also execute this in a seated or a standing position. Same thing here. As you come to that seated position, you're trying to lengthen hip flexor, take hips forward. Main cue and key here is to lengthen that anterior side and make sure that you're executing this stretch after the restorative movement of that march. All right, well, these are 2 restorative movements, okay? A movement and a stretch, I call them restorative movements both, right? That are going to be executed between your strength training days, which are going to allow you to maximize your recovery ability, okay? It's important to add specificity to that recovery ability because then you're gonna truly give the blood flow and the attention to the hip flexors, which you're focusing on this month in the recovery process, the attention needed to truly maximize those results. We have a Hip Flexor Immersive Workshop coming up, okay? I hate to drop it on here, right? It may not be a surprise to some of you who've been following our social media channels, but it's coming. So make sure that you keep a lookout for links to join. It is completely free. And if you are here, you're more than likely worried about or want to focus on your hip flexor strength, and we are here to help you with that, with this immersive workshop that is 100% free. It's gonna be a 5-day event. We have live Q&As, we have exercises, stretches, modalities that are coming out that are gonna help build on this month of education around hip flexors. So please, if you like this video, make sure you like it, thumbs up for us. hit the subscribe button so that you can be notified when our latest videos come out. And as we continue to keep this focus on hip flexors this month rolling, I want to make sure that you continue to build on and get the information that you need. So please do hit the notification buttons. If you have questions, let us know. Remember, strength train, right? Hit those exercises we gave you last week 1 to 3 times. Utilize these restorative movements between. Let us know how it's going, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Have a good one. Our YouTube channel is a great place to start gaining strength, but if you want to get serious about reducing your symptoms and getting results, then you need to be on a weekly structured strength training program with other individuals just like you. And that's exactly what we offer at MS Workouts through our membership. Click the link in the video or below the video to learn how our membership can help you achieve your goals. And while you're on the website, make sure you sign up for the no-cost 7-day strength camp so you can experience how we can help you do the things that you love to do with more confidence. See you all next week.